Covered in dust, his fingers inside his gloves stiff and sore, John Hart stepped onto the steps of Malachi's saloon, one of the boards groaning loudly as his weight fell on it. Inside he heard the piano, gossiping voices, cigarette and cigar haze. He rode 5 hours to bury Clay Kyle, the man's last request to be buried beside his parents in an old cemetery out behind their cabin on River Creek Road. Now he needed a drink to wash the trail dust away that seemed to be seeping into every pore. Pushing the batwing doors open, Hart ignored the uneasy glances coming his way from patrons. These men knew who he was, what he did, and they feared him for it, their grizzled faces quickly turning back to their pints of whiskey or rum. Striding up to the bar, John motioned Malachi Gray, a red-haired, glassy-eyed Irishman, over to him. Gray, speaking with an Indian named Sancho, nodded. "Give me a second," Malachi said, pale hand snapping into the air. "Sure." Hart took out a cigarette, half-crinkled and nearly smashed to death due to the hard riding, and lit up, breathing in the smoke with a grateful sigh. "Hits the spot," he mused. A man of average height, lean with skin and olive brown from the sun, Hart looked every bit a frontier man, from his Colt revolver to his Winchester rifle. His yellow duster, as old as he was, or perhaps older, he didn't know, made him stand out anywhere. Malachi finished up with Sancho and sauntered over, his blue eyes beady. Nervous. "How was it?" He asked the question without truly wanting an answer. It was simply a polite thing to do. John answered anyway. "Hot! Kyle's body started stinking halfway there. I thought the poor bastard stank while he was alive, but boy was I wrong. Whew! Buried him as fast as I could." The fright in Malachi's face told him he crossed a line, but Hart didn't care. He tapped on the counter. "Gimme a rum, would you, Malachi? Been a long day. Got to unwind." "Say," he nodded towards Sancho, "what did the Injun want?" "Him says his horse got stolen out by Pasa Duro. Says it was Eli Manning and his boys." Eli Manning was a lifelong resident of the Bluff, his folks having moved from England back in 1877 when he was 2. Now, at 20, he ran a gang of petty robbers and man-whores who pissed people off more than caused serious grief. "Sancho," John said, swinging his head in the Indian's direction. "You need help in taking care of them boys?" Sancho, a quiet and reserved man, shrugged. "You always were a tight-lipped son-of-a-bitch, huh? Tell you what." Hart drained the rum Malachi in a quick gulp and bounced off his chair, snapping a finger. "I'll help you for free. How's that sound?" Sancho shrugged again, his lined face revealing nothing of what he thought of this proposal. "You sure ain't a talker." "No, sir." Sancho took his leave of the men, heading out of the saloon. Hart watched him go. He noticed eyes on him again. "What?" He raised his arms. "You want to say something?" No one did. John sat back down, tapping his glass. Malachi refilled it. The pianist played a love song then, an old tune he picked up off of a traveling Mexican band last year about the ghost woman La Llorona. "Boyd sure loves that song," Hart said, smacking his lips at the rum's sharp taste. "Reminds him of Scarlett." "Yeah, so you told me before." Scarlett McKinnon, the pianist's wife, died of yellow fever a year before, shortly before Christmas. He hadn't been the same since. "Did you stop in at the sheriff's?" Hart shook his head. "I spec Melvin can wait." "But—" He looked up at the Irishman with cold eyes. "He'll be fine, Malachi." "Yeah." Gray walked off, footsteps heavy on floorboards. Putting out his cigarette, Hart sipped on his rum, his fingers slowly returning to normal. He remembered when he first started, how they'd stay stuck for an entire day after a job. Stiff and sore. Old Man Thomas, his predecessor, warned him to never get used to death, to always keep one foot in the mortal world, but this advice long ago proved useless to him. Finishing his drink, Hart left the saloon and walked the few minutes it took to reach Sheriff Melvin Ellis's office, lights still on,